look at that. People. Human beings with eyes that fall upon me. So I had a quick thing that was in my head that came up, and I thought it'd be good to talk about it. So on this journey where we've been looking at mythology on a deeper level, we've been trying to understand religion, modern religion, on a deeper level, looking into philosophy in the same way. The more we've come to the conclusion so far, as was placed in the last video, about the basis of our consciousness seems to be rooted, at least in the West, in this Greek thought process. But as I began to notice these things, and I began to see there's a great divide that's always happened. I don't want to say it began long ago, but it was defined a different way long ago, and how it is now, I think it's the same thing. So for instance, right now the divide would be between science and religion, right? Like that's the major idea. I know there's more than that, but we're just going to focus on this concept. Well, when I went far enough back into Greek thinking, I learned after the time of Plato, there was a divide between poetry, epic poetry, mythology in that sense, gods and what that invokes, and philosophy. Philosophy was the science of the mind. It was getting away from that. It was thinking of human beings on a different level. Now, science kind of broke off of that eventually, but we're not here to talk about that. But I began to see that there's this connection. But what I think is lost in that is the beauty of the poetry in the story. Because that turned into, it's either true or it's not. Because when you hear people talk about ancient poetry, Homer and Hesiod and all that, they'd say, God, people just believe this shit back then? And then sometimes scholars, their conclusion will be like, well, maybe certain people did, like your lowly people, but they didn't really think about it. But the people that studied it understood there was metaphors in it. But then there was other people who thought, like, no, this is all fucking true. This all really happened. I'm sure that sounds exactly the same as what's going on right now, where we look at religion and we say, it's fucking true. It's a true religion. And then there's other people that study it and say, like, no, there's philosophy inside this. There's concepts in it that we can, look at. And there's things that we can learn from in metaphor. Don't take the story literal. And then there's another group of people that say, like, that's fucking stupid that you even believe that. That's dumb, right? It seems like that's always been a goddamn thing. Now, as I've been thinking in these terms, and I'm keeping it vague, I know, because, like I make always obvious, I'm not a historian. I'm not going to give you dates and shit and all that. We're not here about that. We're here to discover mythology and to discover the myth and poetry, apparently. So something hit me today. I had a vacation from work. I took a week off, went back to work for one day, then I'm off for 2 days again. And in that time, I took the opportunity to finally do some projects around the house. And that was making chair rails down a hall, and there's certain walls that I put chair rails on. Each one I did differently. One is a chair rail that has a celestial image underneath with the hand of my wife. The other one relies more on paint, and cutting things into squares and just this stuff. The last one, I went and did actual like Luan boards and applied those to the wall, and I'm putting borders around it, and it's just this whole intricate thing. I'm starting to get into this craftsmanship stuff, and I really enjoy it. But as of right now, I'm keeping it not structural, aesthetic. So we can learn about it. Don't go jumping into fucking structural shit, ripping down walls and rebuilding them. Why don't we just learn it in a craftsman way of, I just can't think of another word besides aesthetic things. Things that don't have any support but they add to. It looks nice. So I've been doing that the past week and a half, and I've been really enjoying it. And that's when it clicked. I said, I think a lot of the problems that people, when they get caught up in religion or philosophy or science and this and that. There are times where I think people forget when to touch the world. The idea is that I'm trying to convey that I'm doing something physical. I'm doing something that's like right fucking here. Mental. Measurements. Getting everything cut precisely. Angle cutting. You name it, man. Driving in the nails properly. How to make things stay on better. And learning to do all these things. And it's very tactile and it's very grounded. And it makes me feel good to do all these things. And as I'm doing that, the more I'm becoming more in touch with the truth. And the truth for me is like, you know, the gods, one God, any other kind of spiritual belief is great. It's fantastic. It's concepts of the mind. It's inward stuff, born outward and given names and stuff, you know, beings and you name it. And there's nothing really wrong with that. That's concepts of the mind and doorways to access higher levels of consciousness, higher levels of frequency. You can use the Bible to access inner depths of yourself. It could be used as a morality system. It's basically like, think of it like a software. The Bible's a software. It's not like the correct one, but it is one. And it's great. It does a good thing for a lot of people. Most people do it wrong, apparently, because to do it right means not to push out hate, but you know how people are. It's fear. And that's fine, right? So you want to live your life. You want to believe in the Bible, be a piece of shit, you can. You want to believe in the Bible and try to be saintly, you can. You know, like there's fucking realms that you can do in here. And these are great. Buddhism and Hinduism and ancient pagan religion, as they call it. That's fine. And it's great. But something I've learned doing more physical things, getting more into craftsmanship, getting more into writing and poetry, going on the walks in the woods and listening to the land, the more I think that's what people are missing. I think when you start to do, like, why do they always say Jesus was a craftsman, right? Or he was a carpenter, right? Why do you think they said that? Because once you start doing that stuff and you're measuring things, you're joining things together, and you're like, oh my God, I built a picture frame. Now maybe I can build this. And when you get involved in that stuff, it opens another realm of your mind that helps you realize something that modern religion has fucking forgot. And that's our earth. Modern religion seems to be about the earth in opposition to mankind. Whether people want to admit it or not, that's what's going on. Religion is opposed to nature. And so when you get into working with nature, whether that's going outside, collecting plants, harvesting them, maybe you're a beekeeper, maybe you're a craftsman in some way, you're more in tune with the world, and that begins to be the true source of a spiritual awakening. I've never felt more spiritual in my entire life than I have in the past year when it comes to working on my mythology, reading ancient literature and poetry, getting into this, you know, craftsmanship stuff. I'm using that as a broad term because I haven't found a focus yet. I've never felt more spiritual in my life than working with Dove and Thees and on Harius, and then going out for a walk in the woods, coming back and working on my home. I feel really grounded because I think that's something that's missing. A lot of people sit down and they're surrounded by the synthetic world. They have their phone in front of them. They got their acrylic and goddamn plastic clothes on. They got, I don't know, a bland room with nothing on the walls, fucking for some reason gray, driving some Tesla car or God knows some other whatever fucking electric cars are these days. Haven't read a book. They're like, oh, you know, I would love to read a book one day. Haven't done anything tactile. Playing video games all the time like they fucking matter. And you wonder why they're the ones that think that what the world is. As in, people that lose themselves so much of this modern bullshit that they lost sight of this world. It's so easy to sit and think of whatever you think your religion is, or your philosophy, or your science. You've like fucking separated from the world. Now, I'm not saying science is wrong, religion's wrong, or any form of philosophy. My point is, I'm trying to stay broad so I can hone in and talk to somebody, some ethereal person that's out there that might hear this and finally it clicks. When you live in a society that's phony, when you don't want to go to your job, when you hate it, you don't really like your life either, you're confused about your fucking sexual orientation and your gender and your place in society, and you're confused about what's even good, and the deepest you go is, I like, Nightmare Before Christmas. I love that. I love Disney or some Asian, what is that stuff called? Anime. Is the deepest you go. Or maybe you're the other way and you enjoy fantasy or sci-fi, but you're a Protestant, right? And you live not like in the city, but in a small city or something. And your world around you is about as real as you think it is. And you get caught up because you get a house and you finally get a newer car and you take on all these loans and shit, and you lose yourself to the world. Mortgages and taxes and all this fucking stuff, and you go to your church every weekend and you think that shit matters. You listen to the preacher say whatever they say in baptism. I don't even know what those people are called anymore. Whatever denomination. Baptimists? Some shit. You lost sight a long time ago. Because when the world keeps moving forward, we keep losing more and more. Something that I was reminded of when I looked into the Iliad and the Odyssey. And I didn't realize there was so many preambles and what comes after the story missing to time. Like the story before the Iliad. And then like eventually there's a story that happened after the Odyssey. There's a bunch of them, but they're gone now. We only have 2 left out of all of it. And then there's a third, but it's fractured. The reason that from the Iliad jumps to the Odyssey and we don't learn anything about the horse is that was a story that was lost. We just have context to it that we build in the Odyssey by Odysseus talking about what he did. And you start to see that, you're like, oh my God, that's why it's so jarring. And okay, this starts to make more sense now. There's so much things lost. And you take that to where you are now, and then you start diving into what religion is, or what spirituality is, or philosophy, science and all this. And you start to kind of piece it together. And if you do it right, you start to see shit kind of coming together. You start to see like, oh my God, like the reason we argue about belief when it comes to the Greek gods, did they believe in them or not? That's a Christian way of looking at it. And you just like, oh my God, that makes more sense now. So when you start thinking about Greek mythology, you don't have to think what is belief and what isn't belief. Because there's religion wasn't the same way we do ours. Ours is about believing whether this is true or not, right? Jesus, did he really do it or not? You got to believe. Faith. And when you start to unravel all the Christianized way of looking at the world, because that's where we've come from, you see things in a new light, and it's like a fresh breath of air. Like, holy shit. I have been lied to, not maliciously, but in a way that I feel finally not so claustrophobic anymore. You break that fucking third wall of our modern religion. You shatter it. You start to come to these conclusions, and you start to see things in closer to the way that it should be seen. People don't really understand, because you see it in a lot of you see it a lot on the internet where people try to pull things from the past to prove their points now. And you don't realize how much the way you look at certain elements of the past is just Christianized. It's not even real. Like when people try to use the British descend from one of the tribes of one of the Jew tribes. I don't remember the name of all this stuff. They use this 18th, 19th century bullshit. Or they try to use that medieval monks trying to make themselves, in England or in Wales, or even Irish, part of the Bible. Like, well, we're part of the Bible too. We'll make up a character, and he descends from Japheth and all that. Partholon and shit. And you start to see, holy shit, there was a lot of things before this that I'm sorry I'm being really ethereal and messy about it, but this is just stream of consciousness. It's just how it works. We're puking this out right now. It's raw. So I don't have fucking proofs for you and examples and like bullet points and like let's zoom in over here and we'll look at this and that. I'm sorry I don't have that. But I can't help but notice these things of a world that's viewed in a way that it doesn't have to be anymore. And all it took for me to realize this was just a little bit of fucking critical thinking. A little bit of just like, don't just blindly accept shit because some guy said so. Not only that, but becoming more in tune with nature. It's just like you start to realize it's all the same. It's all connected. Human consciousness is just interwoven mess of all these different religions and different societies and different cultures of different times, all just woven together in this modern idea of what fucking things are. And the way we look at things is coded in the past, in these inherited structures that come before us, whether we remember it or not. Why do you do that thing? Well, you start to realize, holy shit, that's a defense mechanism I wasn't even aware of because when I was little, this thing happened to me. Blah, blah, blah. Shit like that. You don't even realize you're doing it, but you've inherited that. You can even inherit things long before your life. You've inherited the way you see the world based on how your mother and father were and how their mother and fathers were and going farther and farther back. And you know what I'm saying? Like, if that can happen in your local area with your parents, your lineage, traumas and stuff that happened to you, why the fuck wouldn't that happen to all the ancient things that we've descended from? Our cultures, our way of looking at life based on where each of us individually have come from back on the home countries, you know, in Europe and Asia and Africa and all that, where we belong. Then you start to really piece it all together. Wow. I'm not what I thought I was. So it's just stuff like this that when I culminate it all together, it hits. And I think there's something to be said about with craftsmanship. It allows these thoughts to happen, but you're working with real materials. And you're doing it in a real way. You're like, for me, I don't have any power tools. I only have screwdrivers, chisels, hand saws, and all this. So I'm sitting there building this shit with these saws and, like, you know, measuring with a pencil and cutting with a saw, using a hammer and putting it in the wall. All real tools that existed 1,000 years before me. I don't know about the screwdriver, but you know what I mean. That's when I think as I was working with it, doing it in this natural way, it made more sense to me. Just it clicked. I didn't feel so separate from the world by buying a fucking something off the internet, having it come here and installing it and then putting it up. I'm hand building these things and it feels right. And I think somehow that's opened the door to what we're talking about right now. I don't know how. I'm trying to explain to you how. Probably still doesn't make sense, but I don't know. Somehow, door just was opened. But I think to understand mythology, which is all I'm about, as you already know, I've talked about it a million times. We're trying to understand mythology so we can understand how to write ours better. And as I'm doing that, I'm seeing these through lines that connect all these strings back to our ancestors. And when I break apart modern kind of interpretations of it, like shattering these illusions and getting through it and realizing, oh my God, there's another world beyond it, the ancient world that I still don't understand, but at least it's not Christianized. The more I'm like, this is starting to make sense to me now. Things aren't so weird and so blocky. And when I was young, when I was young, I thought this was something that happened in my adult life where when I was given Christianity, I always thought there was something weird about it in the back of my head. You know, I would read the Bible and I'd be like, I don't know, there's something about this. I don't know what it is, but there's something about it that's weird to me. And I never tried to put my finger on it too much. I was always like, I don't know, maybe we're overthinking it or something. I'm not really sure. So I tried to read the Bible again, and I just didn't, I don't know, just didn't feel right. I couldn't connect with the words. It felt like like pretend this is the Bible. Every time I was reading it, the words just kept like going and melting, and I'm just like, and I'm trying to put them together, and it just felt weird. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't. I'm trying so hard. And I went to a group of Catholics. I don't know what it was called. It was like a after school thing. It was these Catholic people. And I went in there and they talked about Jesus and Catholicism and all that stuff. And they gave me a book of the catechisms and all that. And I took it home and I studied it religiously. Try to get an understanding of it. And I don't know, it didn't hold me. So I was like, I don't understand this. Flash forward like a few years, and I went once to some Protestant service on Easter to meet with some family. They wanted to do this first, so we did it. And it felt weird. Doesn't feel right. Something was off. And I told you the experience that I had about going in the Catholic Church and seeing the fucking A, what is that thing called? The vessel of that holds, all the wafers. Tabernacle. And it just feeling just frightful and wrong and just something. I don't know. Just I was scared to be in that church. I just felt like, oh, I don't belong here. I gotta get the hell out of here. And I have these experiences, and those ones all were in my adult life. And then I remembered as a kid two things. One, I don't remember how or when, but I was young and I watched my parents getting baptized. And I remember being freaked out by it. Thought that they were being drowned as a child would. And I was crying. And then that's the only memory I have of that. But then I have another random memory. I talked about it before in this, where the Berean Baptists, they were called Berean Baptists. I don't know what Berean is, but if that's even what it was. But they would ride around a bus in our trailer park. They would come in, probably Wednesday and Sunday, and pick kids up to take them to some church thing. And we would try to hide from it. I was always afraid of that damn bus because they'd find you and then they'd be like, come on, come with us to the church. And you didn't want to go, and they would kind of um peer pressure you to do it. As a child by yourself, they got me only one time because I remember only going once, and that's when I saw the first black person in my life. I was like, whoa, what is that? And I just didn't like it. It just felt weird sitting in that room, and kids were dressed nice and shit, and we had this Bible, and it just felt fucking weird. You start to realize, like, it clicked for me. I've always felt this way about her. I'm like, I'm unsure. I don't know why. Something isn't right. I don't know how to put words on it. Is where I'd always come. When you don't feel safe, and someone's like, well, why? You're like, I don't know. Something deep down's like, no, do not do this. That's what it always was for me, this religion. And I kept fighting it and fighting it and fighting it. And I remember trying to pray to Jesus a few times, and it just felt fucking weird. Like phony. It felt creepy. I hated when it was coming out of me. And that's when I realized I was fighting a thought form, really. I was fighting an entity trying to just pull me in. Come on, it's just accept it, man. It was so strange and so surreal of an experience. And I can't lay my finger on it more than that. And when you start to unravel just a little bit of what the church did to Ireland, just a little bit, just get in there and realize what they did to those women, how they made their society. And you start to look at this kind of fucked up way of the world where, you know, dominating of women, that it encodes in itself. Not really naturally, but for some reason over here in America and over there in Ireland and probably a lot of other countries, women are subjugated, told they shouldn't have rights and shit. Fucking weird, man. Weird. And like, you know, we don't even have to talk about all the allegations of child rape and stuff. We don't even need to get into that. But it just blows my mind. And it's coded everything we've ever seen. How we understand our world, how we, over here in America, there's a real big thing right now about immigrants coming in. Now, I can understand in certain countries that that's an issue. But when I think about America, I'm like, we're all immigrants. Fucking, I'm an immigrant. You are too, if you're from America. Like, we all are. Unless you're a native person, 100%, never been sullied in your DNA, then no, you're, even to that degree, that you could argue that they're not really native to the land either, right? If you go far enough back, tens of thousands of years. But whatever, fuck that. In the modern sense, past 400 years, like, we're all fucking immigrants. Why does it matter if more come in? Well, we don't want those kind. And you say, well, what are those kind? Anyone that's not Christian. I'm like, oh, we're getting back into this fucking shit again. This is just stuff around in my area. I don't know about where you live, but this is just the shit I fucking hear. All these Christians don't want Muslims in this country. They don't want these people in this country or those people. You can only emigrate here if you're a Christian. And it's really weird. It's like, fucking why? There's someone who's a Christian that's living in this country right now that hasn't been here half as long as someone who's maybe a Buddhist or a Muslim. They should be kicked out? What the fuck's that about? And so, like, especially like I'm saying in the United States here, Christianity is like fucking this veneer that it's hard to get out of. And as you've been watching me trying to break free from this fucking beast, and I finally have, I feel like when I did it, I feel like I walked out into a forest as I came out. I left this square room where these books were forced on me, piled on my lap, and I'm like supposed to fucking look through them. And I finally set them down and walked out into the woods, and I feel, holy shit, there's fresh air. There's robins in the trees. There's a blue jay over there. I can breathe. It's wonderful. There's the sun. Here comes the moon. And it just feels at one again. And I'm just like, there is something fucking freaky at play in the human mind that I don't necessarily know if I want to open up to learn about. But I have to, because that's what my mythology is. It's exploring some of the things that we do that we don't even know deep, deep down in ourselves. What it is, where it comes from, and why it's happening. It's mind-blowing. You start to unravel all this stuff and the way you're supposed to see your world and how they teach you this and that. You start to see it everywhere and everything. This isn't just a Christian thing. This is pervaded our culture, our science, the way we see gender, sexual orientation, the way we understand music, the way we understand literature, how we understand art, really. It's pervaded all of our philosophy, everything we know, even like weird esoteric shit. You break free from that wall of this weird man-made stuff. You get to this point. This is something that I've been doing because of a vision about getting to the little eye. When you break free from all these trappings of this world, I use Christianity a lot because that's just the massive one where I come from. So you have to understand that. If I was sitting in a Muslim country, it'd be that, you know, but I don't know. I've never met a Muslim. And when you break free from it and you start to see the true who you really are inside of all of this, you see all those things, the strange alien things that humans do, you start to go, this is fucking crazy. They believe all this shit. They believe it so much. They're willing to fight and die for it. These people are fucking dangerous. There are certain things where people will die for. Sometimes it doesn't make any fucking sense. Whatever that kid was doing when he tried to shoot Trump, whenever that happened. Remember, he missed him and all that. Whatever his ideology is, I don't know. The public dyings nowadays, I don't watch the news, but the mass shootings and all the things going on, like they are believing something so much they're willing to die for, and it's almost a joke. It's almost a joke. And I'm not picking sides here. I'm not a right, I'm not a left, I'm not a liberal or a whatever the other one is called. Democrat or Republican. I'm none of that. I'm none of it. I don't play. I'm talking about everyone. It is very strange what people will die for, as if it fucking mattered. And that's kind of the stuff I've been breaking from and working with my hands, working in my home, writing my own mythology, contemplating in the forest, going off and looking at the lake and doing tactile things and you name it. Things that are here and local. It's really helped break me from all that bullshit that goes on out there. It's crazy, man. It's a crazy fucking world. I feel really bad for a lot of people. I've never felt so much at peace before. I didn't really realize how much I was suffering playing the game. I didn't notice. You don't notice the things your bodies are trying to tell you until it's too late sometimes. I had no idea my body was warning me so much to chill the fuck out. Stop getting invested in shit that's bigger than you that doesn't mean anything to you. Stop acting like you care. Don't compromise who you are because someone else wants you to be this, that, or the other thing. Not maliciously. A lot of times people won't do it maliciously. They're thinking they're helping you. As they should. But looking at things in a way that are better for yourself. I really think the worst thing that is going on in this world is globalization. I don't think you can make everything one little cute idea by grabbing all a bunch of cultures and smashing them into one room and saying comparative mythology, everything's the same. From that all the way to science is the diminutive faction. It's everything. That's our new basis for going forward in the world. Science. I think that's a mistake. I don't think humans are meant to do this stuff. But maybe I'm fighting evolution, you know? Maybe I'm the one backwards. Whatever. You know? But the biggest thing I've learned in my life is I just really don't want to play this stuff. I don't want to play. None of this means anything to me, and I don't want to play anymore. And every time you try, everyone tries to pull you back in, softly, gently, or abrasively, to save you with what they think you need to be saved with. Tell you what you need to think. This is good for you. You just don't know, that's all. You were never taught. And it can be very confusing trying to navigate your world when people are talking to you like that, because you think they do have your best interest at heart. And again, they're not being malicious about it. They really believe what they believe. They really think you should too. But sometimes you have to let that shit go. You can find the real truth inside. But anyway, That's something that came to me while I was doing some woodworking today. Right or wrong, that's what it was. But anyway, I'm going to get going and get back to it. Admire my work a little bit, see where I need to do some more things. And I shall see you in the next one.